Hi again then guys, and welcome to yet another review from the new DLC pack, or at least the newest DLC pack on Gran Turismo Sport, and this is a car which I'm not a huge fan of. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I do like the Volkswagen camper van, but not necessarily the Sambabus, because to me I can totally see why people would love the camper van version, in real life that is, not on a game. Whereas this one to me, I don't know, it just doesn't have the same charm. To me, it is a charming car, for sure, in a similar way to something like the Honda LifeStep van or various other small dinky vehicles that have been on Gran Turismo. It definitely does have that charm, but it's just not quite as useful, I guess, as the camper van, and I am partial to camper vans. I'm a big fan of stuff like that. Camper vans, motorhomes, even some at the size of a Winnebago, or some of those luxurious Dakar-style off-road, whatever you want to call them, motorhomes. I love those kind of vehicles. The idea of converting something like an American school bus into an off-road motorhome appeals to me a lot. But this car, to me, I guess I felt like it just didn't go the whole way to being a camper van. The Sambabus is a car with fans, and it actually surprised me, though, how many people requested a review for this on GT Sport. I expected there to be some people asking for it, but I have to say, I believe, off the top of my head, I've had more requests to review this than any of the other cars in the pack. That's kind of weird, but at the same time, I like that the community thinks that way. I like that you guys think that way on the channel, because that's the way I would usually think. Something that's different, that's quirky, that's silly, that's oddball. So yeah, I'm happy that you've requested this one so much. It just happens to be a model that I'm not as much of a huge fan of. Now, the main reason, to be honest, why I'm not a huge fan of it, specifically in the world of Gran Turismo, is because I've never liked the handling that much, especially when tuned. The car has quite a strange profile, and of course you wouldn't expect it to be adept around the track, because it's just not designed for that. It's this dinky little air-cooled minivan, or minibus, and it's not designed to take on the Nordschleifer. As simple as that. However, it should have that potential, because many of other vehicles which also aren't designed for that can be tuned to be very good at it. Even something like the LifeStep van. The handling is totally unrealistic in terms of how fast it can take a corner, but at least you can do that on the game. It gives it purpose and gives it use. Whereas for me, the Sambabus, it just never felt that way. It had impressive-ish specs, but at the same time it didn't really feel that quick. In a similar way to the Beetle, I believe that the premium classic Beetle deserved to have better numbers than what it had in the game. Now, of course, to get those better numbers you would probably need an engine swap, but still, it just felt like untapped potential to me. For instance, with this one, as distasteful as it may sound, I would love to be able to slam this car's suspension to the ground. I want this thing to be scraping the floor, because if I'm going to get something like this, that's the style that I want. Not necessarily stanced, but just slammed, because to me, that suits the car. Now, at the same time, of course, that's a matter of personal preference, and in a similar way to the Corvette Stingray, which, as I mentioned in that review, I wasn't really looking forward to that much from the pack, I was pleasantly surprised by it, though. So is that the case here as well? Well, yes, but I wouldn't say as much as some of the others in the pack, which isn't too surprising. This is, of course, by far the slowest car in the pack and the slowest car in the game. But at the same time, it is cool to see that in a similar way to the Raptor, Polyphony is recognising that actually we were wrong. The community does want more cars, because the whole point of GT Sport was, of course, to move away from that and get back down to racing rather than just collecting vehicles. Which seems like strange logic to me, given that one of the most popular forums on Gran Turismo websites is car wishlists. So, no, Kaz, the community very clearly does want tons of cars, and many of those suggestions, hundreds of my own included, are oddball cars, not just that haven't been featured, but ones to bring back. In fact, if you think of Gran Turismo's past, and your favourite cars from those older games, what are the ones that you think of first? Probably the weird ones, the patent motor wagons, the Ford Model Ts, the Renault Espace F1s, a variety of others, the Nike car, which so many people want back. Those cars have almost no racing use, but they have charm, and they're great collector's pieces, and that is what this car embodies, and that is why although I still don't love the car, it is however definitely improved, and we'll get to that in a second. Although I don't love it still, I do love what it represents, because this is almost, to me, Polyphony acknowledging that the community already knew what it wanted, and them trying to tell the community what they wanted is never going to work, because that's not how you run a game. You have to cater to the crowd, and if you don't want to, don't expect to sell well. So this car represents that. It has almost no racing use, to be fair. It's technically an N100 class vehicle. It shouldn't be, because it's got 33 horsepower, so it's nowhere near competitive enough. When you tune it up, it can potentially be. And the fact that it is pretty lightweight. It weighs 1,095 kilos, and of course you can drop it. Don't expect the horsepower per tonne to be that amazing though, given that you've only got 33 horsepower to work with. It does have almost double that in torque though, 61 pound-feet, from of course that air-cooled 1.2 litre rear-mounted engine. It is of course also rear-wheel drive, although personally I would have kind of liked it if Volkswagen made it a rear-engine front-wheel drive car, which would be the exact opposite of a front-engine rear-wheel drive. I think that would have been cool. Totally pointless and needlessly complex, which is of course why they didn't do it, but if Volkswagen had been a French company, you can guarantee that they would have done something like that, because French manufacturers just love doing weird stuff, and I love that. Have a rear-engine front-wheel drive minivan, just for the sake of it. No real point to it, but it would be interesting to see what a car like that would handle like. Now this one, when tuned, in particular, when it comes to handling, is a lot better. I can definitely say it's a lot better, because it's not just a better handling car in the general sense, but again, like with the others, the Corvette Stingray for instance, it feels more authentic. It doesn't feel like a machine which is just wafting around corners without much feel, almost like a remote control car. It feels like a proper minivan. It doesn't feel perfect. It doesn't feel necessarily all that good even, and that's what it should feel like. You shouldn't tune up a van and immediately have the cornering ability of a hot hatch. That's just not the way that physics work. So I like what they've done to this. And although I'm still not a fan of the car, I can definitely see why people are, and as I said just now, I'm not a fan of the vehicle specifically, but I'm a big fan of what it represents. So that's it overall for this particular pick. Of course, I'll see you guys next time, and we might even do some tuning for this thing, and a number of others from the pack as well, so we'll see. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.